Hey, Alexis, how are you?
Hi, Ben. I am so excited to be chatting with you today and extra thrilled because Big Nate premieres on Paramount Plus on February 17th.
Yeah.
Now, first off, can you tell us what the experience has been like for you getting to bring out your incredible character and bring him to life?
It has been an absolute dream come true to play Nate Wright because obviously the show is based off of an iconic franchise of comic strips and books. And so there's a real responsibility to playing a character that a lot of people consider beloved and a lot of people already know about and the other characters in the show and the relationships. And at the same token, it's really important to sort of elevate that and introduce a whole new generation of people to Big Nate and the world of Big Nate and PS38 and all of his ragtag misfit friends. I would say I see a lot of myself in Nate, and I think that's what's made this such a fun role to play and just again a dream come true in that I grew up drawing and doodling, and if you were to talk to anybody from elementary school they would say like, oh yeah, Ben the artist. So the fact that I'm now playing a character who doodles and draws on the show is just so full circle. And I think that's what makes our show so cool is that it mixes mediums. We're a CGI show, but throughout you see these wonderful 2D animations of Nate's doodles coming to life. So the fact that I draw and Nate draws is a very strange parallel. And I think in talking to every other person on our cast, you would get a sense that everyone's sort of playing elevated versions of themselves. Bryce Charles, who plays Dee Dee Holloway on the show, Bryce is a theater nerd. She's a cosplayer. Dee Dee is a theater nerd. That's literally what her character is on the show. My real life improv and writing partner, Arnie Pantoja, plays Teddy Ortiz. And so our riffing and our improvisational nature that we've developed for years is really evident in the show. And in some of those fun little magical comedic riffing moments. So I think you'll see that we're all kind of playing heightened versions of ourselves. And yeah, I think it's reflected in the end product.
That is so incredible. I love that you get to combine so many of your passions in this wonderful project. And I have to say that I've seen some of the episodes and I'm obsessed with this show. You did such a phenomenal job. So we can't wait to join Nate along with all of his great adventures. Now, speaking of adventures, one of the adventures he constantly goes through is trying to evade detention. So if you can predict how Nate would end up in detention next, what do you think the reason would be?
Oh gosh, well here's the real thing. I'm not allowed to tell you what I know of all the ways that Nate gets into detention over the course of the next episodes. Look, I would sort of make it more I guess I'll zoom out from that answer and say I think that when you have a character who has no fear and no inhibitions in terms of getting into trouble for the sake of fun and mischief, the amount of storylines are absolutely endless. And I give our writing staff a lot of credit. Some of the ways that they've gotten Nate and his friends into trouble are hysterically funny and could only be achieved in an animated series because of how broad you can go visually. And I also think, too, I wanted to give a shout out to our showrunner, Mitch Watson, because Mitch really allows us to elevate the humor on the show by improvising and riffing. And even though we're recording, I'm in my home voiceover studio right now. We're recording remotely because of the pandemic. We're still able to record as an ensemble. And we do that over Zoom. And I think what's so fun about that is it allows us to still riff with each other, to improvise, to find those little fun comedic moments that aren't necessarily reflected on the page. And that ultimately helps to, I think, elevate the ways that Nate gets himself into detention time and time again.
I love it. Well, we have to stay tuned and see all of the many times that he finds himself in some fun trouble. But now I have to ask you because when I was watching the series, there's a very special song that comes on at the end of the first episode. And I won't give it away. Everyone has to tune in to hear what it is. But I want to ask you if you could have a song that defined your middle school or sixth grade era, what song would it be?
No, it's a great question. And, it is worth pointing out that there's a really fun nostalgia quality to our show. You will find lots of songs from the 80s and 90s represented in our series. And so in answer to your question, outside of my voiceover career, I make hip hop comedy music videos about nostalgia. And so I would actually say the song that defines my childhood the most is one that I wrote called Back to the 90s. We got 100 million views on it. We charted on Billboard. We joined the Backstreet Boys in 2017 in Las Vegas. So I would say that encapsulates my deep love of nostalgia and especially 90s nostalgia and music. And again, another just full circle moment, seeing so many wonderful songs that we all know and love, especially at the end of the pilot, which I also will not give away. I think it's a really fun aspect of the show that invites in multiple generations of people. Certainly, kids are going to love the adventures that Nate and his friends go on, but I think adults are really going to enjoy some of the nostalgia that you see represented on the show and here.
That is amazing. There are so many special qualities about this series, and people of all ages will truly love it. So we can't wait to stream it on Paramount Plus. Now, Nate Wright is destined for awesomeness, but surviving school and everyday life can be quite the challenge sometimes. So, what advice would you give to Nate on how he can achieve total awesomeness?
Look, I think, and this is advice I would give to all kids, harness that inner confidence. Find your inner confidence. That's the thing I actually admire the most about Nate is that in spite of his, insecurities that he probably has deep down, he has no fear when diving into any kind of trouble or adventure that he wants to take his friends on. So find your inner confidence, harness that inner confidence. Also, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. And I think Nate sort of embodies that on our show and certainly brings his friends along with that. They're not the coolest, but they kind of act and sort of behave like they're the coolest. And therein makes you cool. So find your own coolness, find your own confidence, and don't let what other people think of you affect how you're going to move forward.
That is so incredible. And that's one of the many things that I love about all of the characters is that they also serve as a great inspiration for all of the viewers to really embrace who you are. So it's so exciting. Now, lastly, Ben, I love that you mentioned that you yourself enjoy drawing, and we love getting to see all of the comics and drawings of Nate in the show. So I want to ask if you could draw a picture describing Big Nate, what would your picture look like?
Oh, man. I mean, gosh, that's a really good question. I would probably draw the way that Nate thinks of himself, which is Ultra Nate. Nate has this like superhero vision of himself. And I think that's sort of what makes Nate charming is that he has this sort of grandiose vision of his life and how he relates to people. So, and also I would say my parents own a comic book store and did for 40 years prior to the pandemic. So yeah, it would probably be the superhero version of Nate because we should all view ourselves as superheroes in our own life.
That is so beautiful. And I love how you have so many great connections in your personal life to this series, which is so amazing. But Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And we can't wait to watch Big Nate streaming on Paramount Plus. Thanks so much again.
Thank you so much. It's gonna be awesome.